Hi, this is Dr. Joseph Sarkissian. Z Systems is a Swiss manufactured ceramic zirconia implant system, one of the most versatile in the market. It offers tissue level, bone level, cementable abutment, and screw retained abutment versions. Today I want to demonstrate the placement of both the tissue level and the bone level systems in a model that fascinatingly enough was printed on our 3D sprint ray unit after being downloaded from the actual cone beam scan of the patient. Using the DICOM file, we also manufactured on the sprint ray dashboard a surgical guide for the two implants being placed in the lower right molar region. This also confirms how the surgical guide clearly and precisely fits on the teeth of the patient. The key system is one of the CEREC Guide 2 key systems. It's the large one, but there are 3 different sizes. And we just make sure that the key fits in the holes provided by the sprint ray. We will use a Nuvag MD20, and the Burr system for the Z systems is shown here. Depending on the chosen diameter of the implant, the corresponding color path guides you through the sequence of the burrs. For example, for a 4 millimeter diameter implant, I am now following the red path. Incidentally, all burrs are made of zirconia as well, so anything that drills into the bone of the patient is not metal, but made of zirconia. Now we are loading the pilot drill, the 2.3 millimeter one, and I will proceed with making the first osteotomy with the pilot drill. Now we proceed with the second implant osteotomy with the same pilot drill. So the distance between the top of the key and the full length of the implant in the bone, the height of the osteotomy, is the D2 value, which can be predetermined before ordering the surgical guide. However, in this case, and most of my cases, I use the surgical guide for the first and probably the second drills. And after making corrections, then I proceed with the remaining sequence of burrs with their corresponding stops. So that gives me an opportunity to confirm my depth and my angulation. With the pilot drill, I routinely stop 2 to 3 millimeters before the full depth of the implant so that I can take my x-rays with the pins provided and make sure that I'm clear of the IA as well as the corresponding distances between the implants and the teeth. As you notice here, the markings on the zirconia burrs are at 8, 10, and 12 millimeters, and the corresponding notches hold the stops on the burrs at the desired length. So here I have the setting at 10 millimeters, and I am just using each consecutive burr with its own stop. As we notice, the anterior osteotomy is on a bony slope, which will prevent the burr from going the full depth and may even deflect it as it shifts to the distal. Therefore, we have to remove that part of the bone and create a funnel shape to achieve the full depth of the osteotomy. The anterior implant is going to be the bone level one, just for the sake of providing an example. So with the bone level, we use the cortical drill that I just used, following which we will use the tapping burr, which will provide the threads for the implant. Again, to summarize, for the bone level implants, we do not use the countersink burr, we just use the cortical burr. The threader is used for all systems, except, of course, if you have soft bone of D3 and D4 quality. Time to place the implant. After rinsing out the socket in a live surgery, of course we use sterile saline. The driver attachment for the implant comes in each implant box and is applied on another adapter, which could be a contra-angle adapter, or, as I'm using here, a wrench adapter. This is precisely what I mentioned before. The slope of the bone will prevent the implant from going in all the way, or it could cause a shift of the implant. And as you notice here, I actually made the adapter break because I exceeded the torque. So I want to demonstrate how to remove the implant in such a case. The adapter is designed to break if a particular torque setting is exceeded. Therefore, the bottom part of the adapter, as you see, has a hex which will allow it to extrude the implant so we can make our adjustments and maybe widen the osteotomy just a tiny bit. Be careful not to widen too much, because then you may strip your primary stability away. After making the necessary modifications in the diameter and threading, we use a new driver and proceed to insert the implant. The implant being bone level, of course, will probably be more submerged under the bone level on the mesial aspect, and it should, however, be at the bone level on the distal aspect. This bone level implant was a 4mm diameter implant, and now we are to proceed with the 5mm tissue level implant. Therefore, we will be following the green path in the Burr sequence. Being a tissue level implant, the implant will have a coronal flare. Therefore, this is where we use the countersink. Be careful not driving the countersink too deep. And if you have a bone slope, in this case on the distal of the implant, we have to lean the countersink more towards the distal for the same reasons that we are able to put the implant in without deflection. We use the same adapter for the driver and proceed with placement of the implant. We strive not to touch the implant itself. We pick it up from the sterile box and we always hold it upright, upside down, so it doesn't slip off our adapter. Again, the problem with the bony slope. Now, being a tissue level implant, this distal aspect of the implant is a little too far submerged, but on the mesial, it may be well above the gum line. The keys for the insertion of the ceramic screw will be the same for both systems. This is the tiny ceramic screw that will be holding the abutment in place. It is a conical attachment and it should not be torqued too heavily. 20 to 25 Newton centimeter, not more than that. The key also has a weak point where if we exceed the desired torque, it will bend or break. So I just stop twisting when I feel the whole key bending. For this implant, I chose an angled abutment, which I would presumably also choose for my live patient. For the distal implant, I want to demonstrate something for you. I did this on purpose. If we exceed the drill depth or we don't angle the burr lingually, we may penetrate or perforate into the submandibular fossa, which is very detrimental. The further back we go in the mandible, the steeper the lingual inclination. I am Dr. Joseph Sarkissian, and thank you for watching.